Return to the darkness, return this longest night of wonder. Return, return to the dream, return this holy night to ponder. Deep in the night, listen, listen, turn to the light, waken, waken. Deep in the night, turn to the light, waken to sun's ancient summons. Ye who are born of a star, who then are we? We who are loved by a star, who then love we? Deep in the night, listen, listen, turn to the light, waken, waken. Deep in the night, turn to the light, waken to sun's ancient summons. We who are born of a star, who then are we?
Lulay, thou little tiny child, bye bye, lulay, 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 thou little tiny child, bye bye, lulay, lulay. Oh, brothers too, how may we do for to preserve this day, this poor youngling for whom we sing, bye bye, lulay, lulay. Herod the king in his raging charged he had this day his men of might in his own sight, all young children to slay. That woe is me, poor child, for thee, and ever mourn and say, for thy parting neither say nor sing, bye bye, lulay, lulay.
O come, Emmanuel, and with your captive children dwell. Give comfort to all exiles here, and to the aching heart bid cheer. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come within as love to dwell.
Touching grace, sweet princes three, firstlings of the Gentiles be, pledged hereby of mercy free, for the heathen ye may see. We beheld a star full bright, signs of Christ the very night, showing clear a holy light, for the heathen glorious sight.
Still, 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 one can hear the falling snow. For all is hushed, the world is sleeping. Holy star, its vigil keeping. Still, 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 one can hear the falling snow. Still, 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 one can hear the falling snow. For all is hushed, the world is sleeping. Holy star, its vigil keeping. Still, 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 one can hear the falling snow.
Good evening, everyone. Before we finish the gathering portion of our service, the gathering music portion of our service, I'd like to offer a few friendly tech reminders. There are moments in which you may wish to see everyone else who is worshiping. This is done by locating and clicking on the Gallery View option in the upper right corner of your Zoom window. Smartphone users can simply swipe left or right to alternate between speaker and gallery view. The worship service is being recorded for UCL's archives and for pastoral care. We may share excerpts of the moments in the service when our worship leaders are speaking. Congregants' videos and/or voices will not be shared. Now is a great time to find your chalice, or in any event, your candle, perhaps, for this service tonight. Grab your favorite mug of tea, coffee, hot chocolate, or other holiday beverage that you enjoy, and get settled into today's service.
Born the King of Ages. mercy mild, God and sinners reconciled. Joyful all ye nations rise, join the triumph of the skies, with angelic hosts proclaim, Christ is born in Bethlehem. Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. Yea, Lord, we greet thee, born this happy morning. Jesus, to thee be all glory given. Word of the Father, now in flesh appearing. Oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him, Christ the Lord. Let us adore him, Christ the Lord.
Good evening. My name is Kim Chappell. I'm a member of the Worship Associates team here, and it's my pleasure to welcome all of you to this virtual sacred space where we continue to draw closer to the Spirit, open wide the circle of justice, and cultivate warm community, even as we maintain spatial distance from one another. UUCL, as we like to refer to ourselves, is a beloved community in process, which means that we are striving to live lives in words and deeds that affirm that Black Lives Matter. It means that we have affirmed for decades that love is divine, no matter whom you love or marry. And it means that we are striving to affirm in practice that all ways of knowing and expressing gender are sacred. It also means that we hold space for many ways of experiencing sacred truth. So we welcome you, whether you hold faith in nature, community, divinity, science, or all of the above deep in your heart, or whether you are not quite so sure what you believe. You are welcome here. You are welcome to journey and grow with us as we seek to fill our lives and our world with both passion as well as compassion. Tonight, even though we cannot be together physically, we'll keep some beloved traditions alive. You will all be invited to light a candle near the end of our service while we sing Silent Night. So you may wish to go grab one during the song coming up in a few minutes. We'll also share a special interactive performance that reimagines the Christmas nativity. But we need some special guests to help tell it. So if any of you kiddos of all ages out there have a stuffed animal you'd like to see participate, we welcome you to go and find that during the upcoming song. Now, I invite us to enter into a sacred time on this holy night as Reverend Israel lights our chalice. From the beginning, out of the darkness, there was light. At the darkest time of year, still there is light. Always, even when things seem hopeless, still there is light. Let this flame be our reminder that hope, love, and light are always waiting to be born in each of our hearts. May our time spent in community be the spark that kindles our fire.
Thank you, Kim. Good evening to all of you. I'm Reverend Israel, and I'm the minister of this congregation. I invite you all to now arrive here and come into this moment where we turn our attention to what matters most in our lives. And my hope for us tonight is that we may discover that this night is a holy night. Not because it's Christmas, but because we are gathered here to notice the beauty and the brightness and the sacredness in all of our hearts. Because we are gathered here to notice the miracle of our own births and our own lives. We are gathered here to tell an old story, one that many of us may have heard before. It's the story of the baby Jesus being born a long time ago. And it is a powerful, life-giving story for many people. And it has brought hope to many people around the world. The story of a small child. But why do we Unitarian Universalists celebrate this story and tell this story? Well, we tell it not because we are sure whether or not it even happened, but because we tell it because we are ready to listen to it with new ears and see it with new eyes. So when you hear this story tonight, whether you believe it or not, I invite you to listen with attention and reverence. For despite the flowery Bible verses that are often used to tell this story, at its core is a very simple message. Each night a child is born is a holy night. Because new life reminds us all of the light and the hope that exists in all of our hearts. That is the flower that is blooming in our hearts tonight as we listen to this story. We're going to recount for ourselves now the story of that baby. And I invite you, as I said, to listen. Listen to a story that you may have heard 1,000 times before and see what it might reveal to you tonight. And discover that it is a story about a baby born 2,000 years ago, or not. But it could just as easily be a story about a baby born this very night, this holy night. So we turn our attention now to our scene in Bethlehem, where we arrive. A long, long time ago, in a city far, far away from here, there lived a greedy emperor, and his name was Caesar. And he conquered many places, and Caesar put out a decree saying,
I want lots of money to pay for my armies. Tell the people that no matter where they are now, they must journey back to the town where they were born. And everyone must sign their names in the big book and pay me a tax.
Now there were 2 teenagers who lived under Caesar's empire, and they had to travel a very long way for several days to a place called Bethlehem for Caesar's tax. But Mary was pregnant and about to give birth. So when they got to Bethlehem, they were very, very tired, and they needed a place to sleep. But what do you know? In Bethlehem that very night, all of the hotels and Airbnbs were full. No one had any room. Their doors and their hearts were closed to these 2 in need. But finally, one person, an innkeeper, felt moved to help. The help wasn't perfect, but they found a way to make some room. And the innkeeper told Mary and Joseph that they could sleep in the stable with all of the animals. And in that stable, where we lay our scene now, there was a cow, a duck, and a horse. So for this scene, Luann, Kim, Lenore, and George are going to play our cow, our duck, and our horse. And George will also be playing our donkey. But I think that they could use some help from all of you out there. So here's what we're going to do. There are 2 things you can do. For any of the kiddos of all ages, if you have a special stuffed animal friend, now is the time to bring that animal to the stable. And second, we need your help making animal sounds. Now, please stay on mute, otherwise it will be total chaos. But make them at home, and we will know you're making them because you can also make gestures or something like that with your hands. Our players will speak the words tonight that the animals say, but of course, Mary and Joseph cannot understand animals. So here's what I need help for. Every time that I say, but all Mary and Joseph heard was, our players and you will make your animal sounds. So let's practice. I'll say something like, the animals just kept on talking and talking, but all Mary and Joseph heard was, excellent. Okay, so a cow, a duck, and a horse were hanging out in the stable late one night when all of a sudden the door opens and a man and his pregnant partner and their donkey come inside and start making themselves at home.
No, who let them in here? They don't belong in our stable.
Hey, yeah, they should be in the inn with the other humans instead of coming in here and taking up all of our hay.
Quack, quack. Somebody needs to tell them to waddle on back to where they belong.
But all Mary and Joseph heard was,
Yeah.
Quack, 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 quack.
No.
finally, the tired old donkey lifted his head. He looked at the cow, the duck, and the horse, and he said,
Yeah, but they have nowhere else to go. and they were forced to make this journey. Imagine riding for days on the back of an old donkey like me when you're so pregnant you can't even see your feet. Imagine being a partner to an expected mother, worried about the person you love and the baby they carry, and you arrive in a faraway city with nowhere to live.
And the cow, the duck, and the horse felt very bad, and they cried out,
Oh, I am sorry. I'll offer them some milk.
I'm sorry. I'll lay them an egg.
I'm sorry. I'll take them wherever they need to go.
but all Mary and Joseph heard was,
Meow, meow,
Quack,
meow,
quack, 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 quack.
nice job, everyone. Will you please join in listening now or singing along if you wish to The Friendly Beasts?
Yeah. I forget my.
Jesus, our brother, kind and good, was humbly born in the stable room, and the friendly beasts around him stood. Jesus, our brother, kind and good. I said the donkey, shaggy and brown. I carried his mother uphill and down. I carried her safely to Bethlehem town. I said the donkey, shaggy and brown. I said the cow, oh white and red. I gave him my manger for a bed. I gave him my hay to pillow his head. I said the cow, oh white and red. I said the sheep with curly horn. I gave him my wool for his blanket warm. He wore my coat that Christmas morn. I said the sheep with curly horn. I said the dove from rafters high. We cooed him to sleep so we would not cry. We cooed him to sleep, my maid and I said the dove from rafters high. Thus every beast by some good spell in the stable dark was bound to tell all the gifts they gave Emmanuel. All the gifts they gave Emmanuel.
Okay. So for this next scene, we need everyone actually to help us play a very, very important role. In fact, all of you, the whole congregation, are going to be baby Jesus. Now, the first sound that most babies make is a really loud cry, but not this baby. In fact, this baby looks around and sees their mom and their dad for the first time, but between their parents' head is a cow with big brown eyes, and a horse with a really long nose, and a donkey with big tall ears. And perched between the donkey's ears is a duck. So, the very first sound out of the baby Jesus is not a cry, It's a really big, boisterous laugh. So, to play the Innkeeper, we have our special guest star, Lenore. And here's what we're going to do. Every time you hear the Innkeeper say, "What's that noise?" you're all going to laugh. Let's practice.
Gee, I was just sleeping nice and quiet, and suddenly I heard something. What's that noise?
Great. Okay, so here's what's going on in this scene. The Innkeeper, who told Mary and Joseph that they'd have to sleep in the barn, is tossing and turning in their bed.
I don't know what it is, but I just can't sleep tonight. For one thing, those animals are making a heck of a lot of noise. But just when I finally got to sleep, I thought I heard something. Now, what's that noise?
So the Innkeeper woke up their partner, who could sleep through just about anything, and said,
Did you hear something? I'm sure I heard something. What's that noise?
but the Innkeeper's partner just rolled over and went back to sleep. So the Innkeeper went outside to see what they could find, but the streets were empty and silent. But still, they knew there was something out there, and they wondered aloud,
What's that noise? Sounds like it's coming from the stables. I'll go check it out.
So the Innkeeper went outside across the courtyard through the stable door where Mary and Joseph had been kicked out of the inn earlier that afternoon were. And the Innkeeper said to them,
I'm sorry I made you sleep in the stable. And I'm sorry that I'm barging in on you like this, but I just have to know, what's that noise? Oh my goodness, it's your baby.
and the Innkeeper realized that it was the newborn baby who had been laughing all along. And suddenly the Innkeeper was full of love for this tiny, vulnerable child, and full of hope too. And the Innkeeper said to Joseph and Mary,
Thank you. This is exactly what I needed at the end of this year. I'm going to go and tell everyone how amazing and beautiful and hopeful the sound of a child's laughter is.
and the Innkeeper ran out into the streets of Bethlehem to tell everyone the good news. Will you please join in singing or listening to "O Come All Ye Faithful"? So now we are out in the fields on the outskirts of Bethlehem, where shepherds are keeping watch over their sheep in the cold night air, making sure that they don't get lost or hurt. And the shepherds are in for a big surprise because there is a whole bunch of heavenly angels headed their way. And so, of course, I need your help to be our angels. Now, in the story, the angels are winged messengers who bring heavenly news, meaning that what they say is accompanied by heavenly sounds. So when the angels speak, what people really hear is something like, ah. So every time you hear me say, and the angels said, you're all going to make a heavenly note. So let's practice. I'll say something like, the shepherds didn't know what to do, so they asked the angels. And the angels said,
Oh.
excellent. So here's the deal. There are two shepherds out watching their flock, and one of them is fast asleep. But the other one is staring up at what looks like a bright star in the sky. And then the shepherd who's awake starts to notice that there's some new stars shining alongside the bright star. And then there are lots of new stars. And then the stars start getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And the shepherd finally realizes that these aren't stars at all, but angels flying down towards them, getting closer and closer and closer. And the shepherd wakes up the other shepherd and points to the sky, and both of them fall on their knees and they're terrified, and they look up at the whole host of heavenly angels hovering in the air. And the angels said,
Oh.
What did they say? I couldn't understand a word.
They said we have to go into Bethlehem.
You speak angel? Why didn't you tell me?
Well, it's just something I picked up.
and the angels said,
Oh.
What did they say this time?
Well, loosely translated, something like, do not be afraid, for behold, I bring you good news of great joy for all people of the world. A baby is born in the city of Bethlehem. You will find an ordinary baby sleeping in a stable with the animals. There is great love inside this baby, just as there is great love inside each of you. This baby will grow up and try to show us how to live in peace and how to love each other. This baby will show how each of us can be saviors for our world.
Wait a second. They said all of that?
It's a very efficient language.
I guess we better go to Bethlehem and see the babe.
So they went with haste and found Mary and Joseph and the child lying in a manger. And as they looked in awe at this tiny, beautiful, vulnerable baby, they realized that each one of us is like a shepherd. We need to remember to take great care of each other and to make sure that the most vulnerable amongst us are cared for. And at that moment, the heavens smiled down upon them. And one more time, the angels said,
Oh.
bravo. Let's join in singing Angels We Have Heard on High. Okay, so we need everyone's help for this last scene. All of the angels and the animals. And I'm actually going to invite us all to go into gallery view for a moment so that we can all see each other, because we're all going to do our cues. Are we ready? Does everyone remember your cues? Good.
And so everyone came together on the streets of Bethlehem, gathering in a big crowd in front of the stable. And the animals inside the stable were talking a mile a minute with excitement about the new baby and its beautiful laugh. But all Mary and Joseph heard was moo.
Quack, 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 quack. And the shepherds were there too, with a heavenly host of angels hovering over them. And the angels said,
Oh.
And the newborn babe looked up at the people and the animals and the angels gathered all together on that cold night and made a glorious little sound. And the innkeeper leaned forward, and even though they knew the answer, they whispered with a heart full of love, "What was that noise?"
And so this, my friends, is one interpretation of what happened in a holy night in Bethlehem 2,000 years ago. And perhaps none of this might be real. The innkeeper, the angels, the stars. But I hope that we just might find tonight that so much rings
For every age in history, powerful tyrants have forced people from their homes, while somewhere, someone has always been waiting in the middle of a cold night, holding open a door, saying, "Come into my humble dwelling. I have room for you."
People have always been wondering, waiting, and staring up at the stars, listening for the heavenly sound of angels bringing news of a new age of peace.
And all throughout history, each night that a new babe has come into the world, those angels have arrived in spirit. And others came too, because people always have known that despite every difficulty life brings, there is so much goodness and light down inside each one of us.
So we are all called to be saviors for each other, and in that way, bring true joy to our world.
Baby named Jesus was born in a place where love was the most important gift of all. My friends, we live in that place too. So let us on this Christmas wrap each other in our love and in our light as we prepare to let the spirit of the season be born in each of our hearts. Let us lift up those hearts now together by singing Joy to the World.
We take an offering each time we gather because we recognize that we need each other to survive. Our offering is a way for us to affirm the life-giving service that this progressive spiritual community provides. When we give, we affirm our support for our values, freedom of conscience in belief, LGBTQ affirmation, racial justice, and respect for the interconnected web of life that is our world. Our entire offering tonight will be used to form the minister's discretionary fund. This fund allows our minister to offer compassionate financial financial support to community members in need. And you can support this fund as you are able by texting the amount of your contribution to 855-927-3685. You can also give via the Contribute tab on the homepage of our website at uuclonline.org or by mailing a check to our office. The offering will now be gratefully received.
When the song of the angels is stilled, and the voices of the night are silent, when the shepherds return to their sheep, the work of Christmas begins.
When the stars in the heavens is dim, and the ringing of the bells is fading, when the kings travel back to their lands, the work of Christmas begins. To feed the hungry, to find the lost, to free the prisoners, to heal the broken. When all war cease, when love is spoken, the work of Christmas begins to live.
When the Bethlehem inn has no guests,
And the sleepers of the town awaken, when the manger is home to the beast, the work of Christmas begins. To feed the hungry, to find the lost, to free the prisoners, to heal the broken. When all war cease, when love is spoken, the work of Christmas begins to live. To heal the broken, to find the lost, when love is spoken, the work of Christmas begins to live.
My friends, will you take some time now to breathe with me and to just be in this moment together on this Christmas Eve? Will you take a moment to be still with me. On this, our holy night. And can you notice the miracle of your own breath? The miracle of what it means to be alive for one more day, to live and to love and to share the light that you carry with the world. Let's all take a moment now to invite that light into ourselves. I invite you to notice that light within you and to kindle it like it is a candle or a fire or a spark burning within your own body, within your own heart. Can you feel that light glowing in you? Feeding it with each breath that you take. In and out. And in and out. Know that the light, my friends, is within all of you. It is not brought to you by someone else or somewhere else, but it is within all of you. The light is you, for it is the beauty that was brought into the world with your birth, with the miracle of your birth. The compassion, the love, the warmth of presence, and the passion in your heart. These are all of the things that you bring to our world. All of the ways that you light our world in the darkness. And despite all of the pain in our lives, despite every time that the pain of the world tries to snuff it out, there it is, still there in you, still burning. And know that even after death, just like rays of light bounce off into space and reach the farthest stars and planets, your light keeps on shining, burning an image in the memory of your loved ones. So my prayer for you tonight is that you know that the miracle of Christmas is not that you need to be saved by someone else's birth, but that you remember the beautiful light and the hope that dwells in each of you. And may you not forget that the work of Christmas is to go out and to share your light and rejoice in it with each other.
Oh come, Emmanuel, and with your captive children dwell. Give comfort to all exiles here, and to the aching heart bid cheer. Rejoice, rejoice, see the hope. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come within as light to dwell. Oh, come you wisdom from on high, from depths that hide within a sigh, to temper knowledge with our care, to render every act in prayer. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come within as hope to dwell. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come within with hope to dwell.
You know, I think I'm still reflecting on why we tell this story in our space here, in our Unitarian Universalist space, about a baby that may or may not have been born 2,000 years ago. A story that I have heard many times, but I'm not sure many of the times I really thought too much about it. In fact, the birth of the person known as Jesus, to me always felt less important than the life that that person was said to have led, or the story of that life, which always felt much more powerful to me in so many ways. The subversive and radical teachings of that person. Ideas like love your neighbor, love your enemies, do not judge others, feed the hungry and the poor. That to me is the real good news that comes out of such a story or a teaching. Not angels scaring poor shepherds to death in a cold field at the darkest time of year. So why do we tell this story as Unitarian Universalists? When many of us are not Christian, many of us wonder whether or not any of this happened. Many of us do not think of Jesus as our Savior. And I'm sure that there are some archaeology and history and astronomy nerds out there who are going to tell me that even if it happened, it definitely didn't happen in December. But nonetheless, here we are, reflecting in the coldest, darkest part of the year, at the end of a painful, difficult year, on a remarkable baby whose story or life brought so much light and so much hope to many people around the world. There really must be some baby, I say to myself. One baby is going to save the world. I mean, it sounds kind of silly when you hear it. And the more I think about it, I think about maybe, well, it's not the baby per se, is what I used to think, but it's what the baby represents. But nonetheless, I have been reflecting a lot upon babies and what they represent for the past year. And there's a brief quote from Sophia Lyon-Fahs, who is a Unitarian Universalist philosopher, religious educator, that I want to read to you. And Sophia Lyon-Fahs says, "Children come. No angels herald their beginnings. No wise ones see a star to show where to find the babe that will save humankind. Yet each night a child is born is a holy night. Parents sitting beside their children's cribs feel glory in the sight of a new life beginning. And they ask, where and how will this new life end? Or will it ever end?" My friends, I have realized in the past year of my life that each night a child is born is really, truly a holy night. I realized this a year ago when I became a parent for the first time. And I think I'm starting to understand now why we tell this story. On the night my daughter Nico was born, there were no angels, no shepherds. But for me, it was the holiest of nights. And I've come to realize that what makes it so holy is the baby, but also the people that come together around a baby, that show hope and strength. Starting with my partner, Abigail, witnessing the incredible act of birth and labor gave me a respect for her that was just amazing. Witnessing the power and the awe of her giving birth with the strength of a divine goddess. It was amazing. And then, of course, there was the baby. And as we sat there after the process of birth, cradling this baby for the first time, watching her little flailing arms, pulling her in close, wrapping her in a blanket, and staring into her dark eyes, I'll tell you, never have I loved anything so instantly and so much. I felt wonder and awe and hope and light and eternity present in that room that night. It was amazing. And as I sat there staring at this new life, I asked myself, what will this person become? Who will they be? And how will their presence be a blessing to our world? And still, I know that I feel like I am in awe and fear, like the angels, on a daily basis, raising a child. But why still do we celebrate this story? Not all of you maybe are parents. And the more I reflect upon it, the more I think about how birth and life inspires me, and I hope inspires all of us to want to be saviors for our own world and for each other. What do I mean? Simple things. Like when our child was born, I witnessed a community of love and support come together around. I remember with the congregation we were at in Oregon, people brought us food. And I'll tell you, food is a much more useful gift than frankincense or myrrh. Maybe if you're reflecting on the actual story of Christmas, you think about the innkeeper and how the innkeeper was moved to help this struggling couple, teenagers, who were about to have a child, and gave them a place to live, to stay when no one else would. And more so, the idea of bringing a child into the world today, with all of the pain, with a climate crisis before us, with all of the pain of the COVID-19 crisis, with all of the struggles and the realizations about racial reckoning in our country and in our world, I really do see how people are inspired to be saviors for each other. And I'm inspired by people of all ages who do this. The activists who are fighting to speak for the voice of tackling climate change, the activists who are speaking up for racial justice and the Black Lives Matter movement in our country, scientists who are working hard to save us from this virus. And I realized that one prophet, one savior could never be enough for us to save our world. That we must listen and notice the voices of angels and prophets all around us. That there are people, you, working to make our world more beautiful and safe and just and loving. And we must, because the world will not save itself. And so my hope for us is that we notice what is already holy in our midst. Those who are working and striving to love more and love more justly in our world. That, my friends, is why we tell this story, this 2,000-year-old story. Not to reflect on the birth of one miracle, but to notice the daily miracles that we live and that we bring, that we give birth to in our life when we live lives of meaning and purpose. Sometimes it is something new being born, or sometimes it is the birth or rebirth of our own consciousness, noticing how the world truly is and how we need to meet the needs of it. So we must listen to the angels and the prophets amongst us, and we must answer, even if we are afraid. And we must work to bring peace and justice and love, because the world will not save itself. Each one of us must be the newborn baby, and each one of us must carry that light. That is why we tell this story. My friends, we have reflected tonight upon the light that is in each of us. And we gather here because we know that we need each other too to carry that light and to pass it from one to the other. And so we will sing now, Silent Night, and we will light our candles. I invite you to now get your candle and prepare to light it if you brought one. And as you hold your candle, I invite you to reflect upon how you give your light to the world. And the staff and I here will start us out. Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright.
Round yon virgin mother and child, holy infant, so tender and mild,
Sleep in heavenly peace. Sleep in heavenly peace.
Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright. Round yon virgin mother and child, holy infant, so tender and mild, sleep in heavenly peace. Sleep in heavenly peace. Silent night, holy night, shepherds quake at the sight. Glory stream from heaven afar. Heavenly hosts sing hallelujah. Sleep in heavenly peace. Sleep in heavenly peace. Silent night, holy night, Son of God, love's pure light, radiant beams from thy holy face. With the dawn of redeeming grace, Jesus, Lord, at thy birth. Jesus, Lord, at thy birth.
My friends, know that there is eternal divine light that lives inside each of you, and not just on any one holiday, but every day of your life. So we go forth from here and we will extinguish these, our ritual lights. But when we go from here, we go out and we bring it out and we share it. My friend, the world needs you to share your light. Go and make it so, and go in peace.
Oh Christmas tree, how lovely are thy branches. Oh Christmas tree, how lovely are thy branches.
Not only green when summer blows, but in the winter when it snows.
Oh Christmas tree,